Karoline stepped out of her sleek black sedan into the bright open space of drive-forward motors, her heels clicking softly against the polished tile floor. Sunlight streamed through the tall windows, painting the rows of gleaming cars in warm, gold tones. The hum of conversation blended with soft background music, thoughtful indie tunes that hinted at the manager's eclectic tastes. She smoothed the lapels of her tailored blazer, straightened the name badge on her chest, and took in the scene with careful precision. Everything looked inviting, almost serene, yet she felt a slight tightness in her chest. She was no stranger to public attention, but here among these salespeople and prospective buyers she wasn't on familiar ground. As Karoline moved deeper into the showroom, she noticed colorful posters promoting weekend test drive events, banners boasting unbeatable financing options, and a large digital screen cycling through customer testimonials. The walls were painted in soft neutral tones, and the furniture, modern couches and high tables, gave the space a polished, contemporary feel. Yet small personal touches caught her eye. A few tasteful political cartoons pinned to a corkboard near the entrance, a bookshelf filled with policy books and environmental magazines, and a cheerful potted plant by the service desk. These details spoke of a manager who cared about atmosphere and ideas, someone unafraid to blend commerce with conversation. A friendly sales associate approached her with a warm smile. "Good morning. Welcome to Drive Forward Motors. How can I help you today?" Karoline returned the smile politely. "I'm looking for something reliable, maybe a mid-size SUV. I'd like to take one for a test drive." The associate nodded, flipping open a digital tablet. "Absolutely. I'll grab the keys for our latest model. Feel free to make yourself comfortable in the lounge while I prepare everything." Karoline settled onto one of the leather chairs, crossed her legs, and pulled out her phone to review her notes. She was here for pure business, to compare features, check fuel efficiency, and negotiate a fair price. As a public figure, she preferred to keep her personal and professional lives separate, and car shopping felt refreshingly ordinary. While she waited, Karoline allowed herself a moment to observe the other customers. A young couple studied a bright red convertible with youthful excitement. An older gentleman and his wife leaned over the hood of a rugged pickup truck, discussing horsepower and towing capacity. Nearby, a mother and daughter chatted about child safety seats as the daughter ran her hands over the smooth dashboard. These scenes of everyday life soothed Karoline's nerves. Despite the tension that often came with her public role, this place felt grounded, people simply pursuing their daily needs. Moments later, a tall man with salt and pepper hair swept into view. He wore khakis and a crisp polo shirt embroidered with the dealership logo. His confident stride and friendly greeting suggested his position. "Karoline Leavitt, welcome," he said, extending a firm handshake. "I'm Alex Moreno, the general manager here at Drive Forward Motors. It's a pleasure to assist you today." His voice held a slight accent of enthusiasm, and his eyes sparkled with intelligence. Karoline nodded, returning his handshake. Despite the professional setting, she noticed a hint of something else in his tone. An undercurrent of pride, perhaps a readiness to make a point. "Nice to meet you, Alex," she said. He gestured toward the test drive car. "We've got the new Horizon X5 ready for you. It's been one of our best sellers for comfort and efficiency. Let me just run through some details before you take it for a spin." Karoline followed him to the gleaming SUV, listening as he spoke about its safety ratings, advanced infotainment system, and eco-friendly hybrid engine. He talked animatedly, weaving in his own experiences, how he took his kids camping in a similar model, how he personally enjoyed the smooth drive on winding roads. His familiarity with the vehicle was obvious, and Karoline appreciated the genuine enthusiasm he showed. As Alex finished his overview, he glanced down at his phone and chuckled softly. He tapped the screen a few times, then looked up with a mischievous grin. "By the way, I caught you on morning news last week," he said. "Your segment on fiscal policy was interesting." Karoline raised an eyebrow. She had mentioned in her schedule that she preferred to keep her public life separate, but she appreciated honesty. "Thank you," she replied carefully. "I try to keep the discussion grounded in facts." Alex leaned against the SUV with his arms crossed. Facts are good, but opinions are better when you have an open mind. Wouldn't you agree? His tone was friendly but carried a clear challenge. Karoline analyzed him for a moment. His body language suggested confidence and perhaps a little smugness. She forced a polite smile. "I believe in respectful debate," she said. "But today I'm here to choose a car, not to debate politics." Her response was calm yet firm. Alex's grin widened as though he had expected just that. "Fair enough," he said, tossing his phone back into his pocket. "Let me know if you need anything else." Karoline climbed into the driver's seat, adjusted the mirrors, and started the engine. The dealership buzzed around her as she eased onto the lot for her test drive. Throughout the drive, Karoline focused on the Horizon's handling, the silence of its hybrid motor, and the ease of toggling between driving modes. She enjoyed the feel of the steering wheel in her hands and the way the car responded smoothly to her inputs. Yet she couldn't shake a slight annoyance at Alex's earlier remark. She reminded herself of the goals she set for this visit. Find the best value, test comfort, and finalize terms. Personal feelings would have to wait until after the deal. Back in the showroom, she handed the keys to Alex. He offered a clipboard to sign some documents. She glanced at the form, standard information, name, address, financing options, and began to fill it out. Near the bottom, a small box asked if she wanted additional customer support services, like free oil changes or extended warranties. As she considered her choice, she noticed Alex watching her with a keen expression. It dawned on her that every customer decision here mattered, not just for sales, but for building rapport and loyalty. Finishing the paperwork, Karoline looked up at Alex. He cleared his throat. "Before we wrap up, I want to say thank you for choosing us," he said. "I hope your new Horizon brings you many miles of enjoyment." She smiled, relieved the transaction was ending smoothly. "Thank you, Alex. I appreciate your help." As she gathered her belongings, she took a moment to glance back at the showroom one last time. The potted plant by the desk, the stack of policy books, the corner where a few employees had been casually discussing the latest news. It all seemed to pulse with the energy of daily life and ideas. Unbeknownst to Karoline, elsewhere in the company's regional offices, her husband Daniel was preparing for an important announcement. He had recently been named Regional Director of Sales for the entire network of Drive Forward dealerships, including this one. Daniel pored over his notes, rehearsing his speech to the executives who would soon learn of his new responsibilities. He felt a quiet pride mixed with a bit of trepidation. Managing so many dealerships would be a challenge, but one he had worked toward for years. Meanwhile, Karoline slipped behind the wheel of her new Horizon X5, ready to drive off into her next engagement. She thought about the weeks ahead, interviews, appearances, policy briefings. She felt the familiar adrenaline of her public life stirring within her. But for now, she had a new car and a reminder that even public figures needed ordinary moments, like choosing a vehicle, signing papers, and driving home under the afternoon sun. The stage was set. Small gestures of respect and simple human interactions had carried her through this part of the day. She departed Drive Forward Motors, unaware that tomorrow would bring an unexpected twist, her husband's arrival as the very boss of the man who had questioned her views. That thought, however, belonged to the story not yet told. Karoline leaned against the hood of her new Horizon X5, reviewing the final details of her afternoon schedule on her phone. The sun was high in the sky, and the dealership's front lot buzzed with activity as a few cars rolled onto the ramps for maintenance. She tucked a stray lock of hair behind her ear, ready to leave, when her peaceful moment was broken by a clear, confident voice. "Is that really you?" The speaker stepped forward, a tall man with neatly trimmed hair and a bright smile. He wore the same khaki trousers and polo shirt she had seen on the manager, Alex Moreno. Karoline straightened, raising an eyebrow in polite surprise. Alex crossed his arms casually and leaned into the driver's side window. "Karoline Leavitt," he repeated as if tasting the name. "I saw you on that morning show yesterday, quite the performance." His tone hovered between admiration and mockery. Karoline forced a small smile. I prefer to think of it as sharing ideas, she replied softly. She glanced around, noting customers watching this exchange with mild curiosity. Her heart fluttered at the attention, but she kept her composure. Alex tapped the car's hood with his fingertip. Ideas are fine, but they're even better when open to change, he said. His words felt pointed. Karoline sensed a challenge in his gleam of amusement. I'm always open to new information, she answered evenly. Today, though, I'm open to a drive home. She turned to open the door, but Alex pressed a hand to the frame. Hold on, he said, looking at her. Name badge. I'm not finished. He crouched to tap the badge. Karoline Leavitt, political commentator. Interesting that you'd come here of all places. I figured a person with your background would have your own driver. Karoline paused, surprised by the implication. I drive myself, she said, choosing her words carefully. I like having control, especially over something as important as transportation. Alex laughed lightly. Control, huh? You seem to want control over other people's opinions, too. I saw that segment. Very confident stance. He stood and tilted his head, studying her face. But confidence doesn't equal correctness. A small group of onlookers had gathered, some murmuring behind polite hands. Karoline felt a prickling of embarrassment. Her cheeks warmed slightly, but she refused to look away. I'm not here to debate politics, she said more firmly. I'm here because I need a car that will get me where I need to go safely and reliably. Her voice carried enough firmness to draw a few nods from the spectators. Alex folded his arms and smirked. Funny how politics can creep into every corner of life. He stepped back, gesturing toward the service area. How about I show you around the workshop? You could learn a thing or two about real-world challenges, like engine diagnostics. Karoline hesitated. Declining might seem rude, but accepting would tether her to an extended sales pitch. She glanced at her watch. She was scheduled for an interview in 20 minutes. I appreciate the offer, she said, but I must be on my way. Alex nodded, though his gaze remained fixed on her. Of course. But before you go, would you mind if I took your picture? For our social media. Celebrity customer visits. Drive Forward Motors. I think our followers would love that. Karoline's pulse quickened. A photo with her name tagged to a dealership's page would fuel endless comments and clicks. She weighed the consequences. A simple nod would spare her a scene. Sure, she said quietly, lifting her chin. Alex smiled broadly and pulled out his phone, clicking a quick shot that featured Karoline and her SUV. He tapped a few times and held up the screen. Perfect, thanks. He slipped the phone back into his pocket. Enjoy the drive, Ms. Leavitt. Karoline opened the door and slipped inside, offering him a curt nod through the glass. She closed the door, settled into the seat, and exhaled slowly. The click of the seatbelt echoed in the quiet cabin. She stared straight ahead, reminding herself that this was nothing more than a brief encounter. She started the engine and pulled away, the horizon gliding smoothly over the pavement. As she turned onto the street, she noticed a small group of people gathering near the entrance of the dealership, phones raised. Her stomach twisted. The photo had already been shared. She could see it on her phone, tagged and captioned with a snarky remark. When Leavitt trades policy papers for car keys, drive forward. A flood of comments streamed in, playful jabs, mocking emojis, supportive messages from her followers. Karoline gripped the steering wheel, her knuckles whitening. She reminded herself of the stakes in her public life. Every action was a performance to some, an opening to judgment. She drove swiftly to her next appointment, rehearsing a response. Should she address the post directly, or ignore it and let it disappear in the feed? She decided that acknowledgement would only fan the flames. Instead, she would carry on, focusing on her work. Her first stop was a downtown studio for a live interview. As she walked toward the entrance, her mind replayed the moment at the dealership, the mocking tone, the public display, the caption's bite. She refused to let it rattle her poise. She straightened her shoulders and stepped inside, ready to speak about policy and economics. But behind her calm exterior, she felt a quiet determination growing. She would not let a single comment define her day or her reputation. She told herself that real influence came from steadfast commitment to ideas, not social media buzz. That evening, after the interview and several other engagements, Karoline reflected on the day's events. She sat at her desk at home, where soft lamplight illuminated her notes and a half-filled cup of tea. She thought about Alex Moreno's jeering tone and the way he brought her public persona into a simple car purchase. A message notification blinked on her computer screen. It was from a friend in the industry. "Saw the post from the dealership, you okay?" Karoline typed back quickly. "I'm fine. Just a silly stunt." She pressed send, then sighed. "Silly stunt," she murmured, not believing the phrase. Herself. Her husband, Daniel, peeked into the room. He had been catching up on paperwork in his home office, unaware of what had happened. He slipped into a chair beside her. "Long day?" he asked softly. Karoline nodded, closing her laptop. "You wouldn't believe what happened at the dealership today." Daniel listened as she recounted the mockery, word for word. When she finished, he reached for her hand. "I'm sorry that happened," he said. His voice was calm, protective. "You handled it well." Karoline gave a small smile. "Thank you." She paused, then added quietly, "I'm going back there tomorrow." Daniel looked at her, surprised. "Why?" She drew in a steady breath. "Because I want to see him again. I want to see what he does when he knows who I really am, and who you really are." She hesitated, then met his eyes. "You're his boss, Daniel. The regional director starts work tomorrow." He stared at her in shock. The gears in his mind turned rapidly. An entirely new dynamic awaited at the same dealership. They sat in silence, the weight of tomorrow pressing on them both. Outside, the city lights shimmered, hinting at the challenges ahead, and the moment when worlds would collide in a way neither of them had fully anticipated. Karoline woke before dawn, the sky still a deep shade of blue beyond her bedroom window. She dressed quickly in business attire, a crisp white blouse and a navy skirt, and let her hair fall loosely over her shoulders. Her heart beat with a mixture of excitement and nerves. Today was the day her husband Daniel would start as regional director of sales, and it was the day they would face Alex Moreno again. Over breakfast, Daniel reviewed his speech for the morning meeting. He had spent the last week finalizing strategies to boost sales across the region, balancing franchise goals with customer satisfaction. Karoline sipped her coffee, watching him focus. She told him, "Remember, you're here to lead with respect. You set the tone." He gave her a reassuring smile. "I know, and I'll handle this with care." They drove together to Drive Forward Motors. Karoline sat quietly in the passenger seat, glancing at familiar storefronts passing by. When they arrived, the lot looked exactly as she remembered, rows of cars gleaming in the early light, flags fluttering at the entrance. A few employees were already out, readying vehicles for the day. Alex Moreno emerged from the showroom, adjusting his name tag. He seemed surprised to see two figures approaching. "Good morning, Alex," Daniel greeted as they reached him. His voice was steady, carrying authority. "I'm Daniel Leavitt, the new regional director. I look forward to working with you." Alex's eyes widened slightly. He straightened, placing a hand over his heart in mock courtesy. "Mr. Leavitt," he said, "I had no idea. Welcome aboard." His tone was cautious now, lacking the earlier smugness. Karoline watched Alex's reaction closely. She noticed the momentary flicker of discomfort when he realized who Daniel was. Alex recovered swiftly, extending his hand. "Congratulations on the new role," he said. Daniel shook his hand firmly. "Thank you. I hope we can build on what you've done here. I'd like to join your morning briefing if that's all right." Alex hesitated, then nodded. "Of course, follow me." Inside, a half-circle of sales staff had gathered. They looked up as Daniel entered, whispering among themselves. Alex cleared his throat. Team, this is Mr. Leavitt. He'll be overseeing our region. Some employees offered polite smiles, others nodded, still processing the news. Daniel spoke clearly. Good morning, everyone. I'm here to support you, to help each of you meet your goals, and to ensure our customers receive the best service possible. I value your experience and ideas. Let's work together. A murmur of approval ran through the group. Karoline felt a swell of pride. Daniel's calm confidence eased the tension in the room. After Michael Torres, the senior salesman, asked a couple of logistical questions, Daniel invited feedback on current challenges. Hands went up about financing hiccups, service scheduling delays, and the upcoming weekend sale event. Daniel took notes, asking questions that showed he was listening deeply. Karoline realized Alex was standing to the side, watching Daniel with a thoughtful expression. When the briefing ended, Daniel thanked the team and suggested they reconvene next week with progress reports. As the employees dispersed, Alex approached Daniel and Karoline in the showroom. He still wore his crisp polo shirt, but the earlier smugness had vanished. I appreciate how you handled that, Alex said quietly. I might have been, well, a bit too casual yesterday. Daniel inclined his head. I understand. Personal politics can get in the way. But today is about moving forward. Karoline added, we came here because we believe in respect for each other and for customers. Alex nodded solemnly. Agreed, and I'm sorry for my part in yesterday's remarks. He stood a little straighter. I look forward to learning from you both. Daniel spent the next hour touring the service bays, meeting mechanics and support staff. He asked questions about turnaround times, parts shortages, and training needs. He promised to streamline communication between offices and to fund additional training programs. The mechanics appreciated his practical focus. He listened to their concerns about work shifts and tool availability. Karoline observed how patiently he engaged with everyone, never rushing, always respectful. Meanwhile, Alex joined Karoline in a quiet corner of the showroom, while Daniel was with the technicians. He sounded sincere as he said, Karoline, I didn't handle our encounter well. It wasn't professional. She gave him a small smile. Thanks for saying that. Alex continued, I mocked your public role because I've seen politics tear people apart. I wanted to challenge you, but I realize now I crossed a line. Karoline nodded. We all learn. What matters now is how we go forward. Alex seemed relieved. I'd like to make it right. As a gesture, I want our team to donate a portion of this week's profits to a charity of your choice. Karoline was taken aback. I appreciate that, but it's not necessary. Alex insisted, no, it's a way for us to show we respect your work and what you stand for. She paused, then said, let's pick an education fund, one that helps students learn debate and public speaking. He smiled. Perfect. By mid-morning, Daniel returned to the showroom. He found Karoline reviewing marketing materials with the digital display. Bright posters advertised the upcoming weekend sale, Drive Forward to Your Future, and a banner noted the dealership's community support. Daniel glanced at Alex standing nearby. Their earlier frank talk seemed to have set a new tone of cooperation. Daniel approached Karoline, placing a hand on her shoulder. How's it going? He asked quietly. Karoline turned to him. Better. Alex apologized. He's committed to a charity donation. Daniel nodded approvingly. Good, I want this place to succeed, and for people to feel valued, both customers and staff. He walked over to Alex and invited him to lunch with the leadership team to discuss regional objectives. Alex agreed readily. Before they went to the restaurant next door, Karoline took a final look around the showroom. She noticed the same potted plant by the desk, the policy books on the shelf, and the digital screen now showing respectful messages about the importance of community. The place felt different, warmed by genuine collaboration rather than fueled by mockery. It was clear that Daniel's leadership and Alex's openness to change had shifted the atmosphere. As they stepped outside, Karoline slipped her arm through Daniel's. I think we did something good today, she said. Daniel smiled. We did. And it's only the beginning. Alex followed at a respectful distance, carrying a notepad filled with ideas for improvement. Karoline thought about how easy it is to judge someone in a single moment, but how much more powerful it is to see them change. Over lunch, Daniel outlined his 5-point plan: better training, streamlined financing, community engagement, improved service processes, and enhanced customer follow-up. Alex contributed ideas about social media and local events. Karoline listened, offering insights into public perception and communication strategy. The three of them sketched timelines on napkins, feeling energized by their shared vision. Later, as they returned to the dealership, Karoline reflected on the day's events. What began as an awkward encounter had blossomed into partnership. She realized that leadership was not only about power, but about fostering respect, listening, and working together. Tomorrow would bring new challenges, but today proved that even small steps, like a sincere apology or an open conversation, could change everything. They parted ways in the showroom, each returning to their roles. Alex to manage the sales team, Daniel to oversee multiple dealerships, and Karoline to continue her public work, now with renewed faith in the power of respect. The sun hung low in the sky as they left Drive Forward Motors, the lot shining in the evening light. Small seeds of change had been sown today, seeds that, with care and attention, would grow into something lasting and impactful. Karoline arrived at Drive Forward Motors early the next morning, her heart heavy with anticipation. Today was the day the charity event would take place, the one Alex had arranged as a gesture of goodwill. She stepped into the showroom to find a bustle of activity. Salespeople arranging raffle tickets, mechanics polishing a lineup of donated cars, and volunteers setting up tables loaded with information about the debate and public speaking fund. Daniel stood by the entrance greeting guests, his smile warm and genuine while Alex coordinated the layout of the event space. The air felt electric with purpose, a far cry from the tension of their first encounter. As the doors opened to the public, families and students filtered in, curious about the giveaway and the free mini-sessions on effective communication. Karoline watched with satisfaction as Alex guided a small group of teens to a corner where local debate coaches would offer tips. She admired how Alex had embraced the idea. His willingness to learn had been genuine. Nearby, Daniel was directing a photographer to capture moments for the regional office's newsletter. His leadership shone through each interaction, respectful, inclusive, driven by clear goals. Halfway through the morning, as Karoline introduced a volunteer speaker at the small stage, her phone buzzed with an urgent alert. A local blogger had posted a scathing piece questioning the sincerity of the dealership's charity drive. The headline read, "Drive Forward Motors Charity Stunt, Gimmick or Genuine?" The article suggested that Alex was desperate to repair his image after mocking Karoline and that the event was a mere PR stunt. Comments under the post varied from praise to outright condemnation. Karoline's stomach clenched. She excused herself and found Alex near the raffle table. "Alex, there's a post online calling this event a gimmick," she said softly, showing him the screen. He blinked, scanning the words. I didn't imagine this," he murmured. His confident veneer cracked for a moment. Karoline placed a hand on his arm. "We can handle this. We've done the work. Let's keep going." Alex drew a breath. "You're right. Let's show them what this really means." Daniel appeared, having overheard as he passed by. He frowned at the phone. "We can't ignore it. People might back out if they think it's fake." Karoline nodded. "Then let's address it head on. Let's be transparent." Daniel looked at Alex. "Why not acknowledge the post? Invite the blogger to see behind the scenes. Show them the real impact." Alex hesitated, then nodded. "Okay, let's do it." Karoline tapped her microphone. The chatter in the showroom hushed as she raised her voice. "Good morning, everyone. Thank you for coming to our charity event. We want to address something directly. Some have questioned whether this is a genuine effort or a publicity stunt. We assure you this is about our commitment to the community and to helping young people build confidence through debate and public speaking." A murmur of approval rippled through the crowd. Daniel joined her on stage. "We invite anyone with doubts to join us at any part of this event. See for yourself how much work has gone into preparing these sessions, how our team volunteers their time and effort, and how these young people stand to benefit. Our goal is clear: to give back in a way that aligns with our values." He gestured toward a corner, where a group of students laughed as they practiced short speeches. The sight prompted applause from the audience. Meanwhile, Alex approached the blogger who had posted the critique, a young woman with a laptop perched on a high stool. He introduced himself properly as the general manager, apologized for his earlier remarks toward Karoline, and explained the genuine intentions behind the charity drive. He offered her an exclusive behind-the-scenes look at the volunteers, prep work, and the charity's plans for handling donations. The blogger, intrigued by his honesty, agreed to stay and cover the event live. Karoline watched this exchange and felt a fierce pride. She thought back to the first day, the mocking tone, the challenge in Alex's voice. Now she saw how far he had come, from a manager who scoffed at her public role to someone willing to stand up, admit mistakes, and open the doors to scrutiny. It reminded her that real change often required humility and courage. Later in the afternoon, as the event reached its peak, the blogger began sharing positive updates, photos of students receiving debate guides, testimonials from families grateful for free coaching, and quotes from attendees praising the sincerity of the effort. The hashtag #YourDriveForwardGives trended locally. Karoline noticed nearby parents taking pictures of their children speaking into the makeshift mic. Their faces glowed with pride. Alex caught her eye across the room and gave a thumbs up. Daniel joined Karoline at the side of the stage, handing her bottle of water. "You did great," he said quietly. She smiled. "So did you both." The three of them stood together, taking in the revived atmosphere, one of genuine community spirit rather than forced politicking. As the event concluded, Alex called everyone together for a final announcement. "Thanks to all of you," he said earnestly. "We have raised enough donations to fund a full semester of debate workshops for 10 local schools. This is only the beginning." Applause and cheers echoed. The blogger closed her laptop, nodding and smiling as she packed up, clearly satisfied with the authentic story she had to tell. When the crowd dispersed, Karoline found a quiet moment with Daniel and Alex. "Thank you for standing up today," she told them both. Alex shook his head. "Thank you for trusting me. You could have walked away when things got rough." Karoline looked at him calmly. "I believed you would do the right thing." Daniel put an arm around each of them. "This is what leadership looks like, facing challenges, being honest, and working together." That evening, as the showroom emptied and the cleanup began, they reflected on the day's events. Karoline thought about how a simple act of mockery could have derailed everything, but instead it had sparked a process of growth and collaboration. She realized that the real story was not about political divides, but about human connections and shared purpose. The dealership felt different now, closer knit, more open, and alive with possibility. Back at home, Karoline sat at her desk and drafted a short post for her own social media. She wrote about the power of transparency and the unexpected lessons learned when people choose to work together. She added a photo of the students speaking into that homemade mic and tagged the charity fund. As she hit post, she felt a deep satisfaction. Daniel entered with 2 mugs of tea. He handed one to her and settled beside her. "Ready for tomorrow?" he asked. She smiled, leaning back. "Tomorrow brings new challenges, and I'm ready." Outside, the city lights winked on, promising another day of both ordinary routines and extraordinary moments. And in that quiet, shared space, Karoline knew that part 4 of their story was closing, and that the climax still lay just ahead. The sun was barely up when Karoline stepped outside, a warm breeze brushing past her as the city slowly came to life. It had been a few days since the charity event at Drive Forward Motors, but the impact still lingered in her heart. The event had not only been a success in numbers, it had brought people together, broken down assumptions, and created unexpected connections. Yet Karoline sensed that their journey wasn't fully complete. Something was still waiting to unfold. That morning, she was invited to speak at a local high school, one of the first to benefit from the debate and public speaking fund. She'd been asked to talk about leadership, handling criticism, and staying true to your values. As she walked into the school auditorium, she was greeted by rows of eager students, some holding notebooks, others holding their phones up to record. She smiled, taking the stage with calm confidence. She began, "Not long ago, I walked into a car dealership just to buy a vehicle. I didn't expect anything unusual that day. But what started as a normal errand became something far more meaningful." She shared her experience, how a comment from someone who disagreed with her views could have left her angry, but instead became the beginning of something better. "We don't always get to choose what happens to us," she said, "but we do get to choose how we respond." The students listened closely. A few teachers stood at the back, nodding in agreement. Karoline spoke about dignity, growth, and why being calm in tense moments wasn't weakness, it was strength. She reminded them that behind every disagreement was a chance to listen, to learn, and maybe even to teach. When she finished, the applause was loud and genuine. Later, as students came up to thank her, one girl, about 15, stepped forward nervously. "Miss Leavitt," she said, "I used to be scared to speak up in class, but now I want to try debate club. Do you think I can do it?" Karoline knelt slightly to meet her eyes. "Absolutely," she said warmly. "Your voice matters. Start small. Just speak once. Then again. It'll get easier." That moment stayed with Karoline as she returned to Drive Forward Motors later that day. Daniel had invited her for a quiet celebration with the team. The showroom had a relaxed feel. Balloons from the charity event still floated in the corners, and a cake sat on the break room table with a note. "Thank you for believing in better." Alex greeted her with a handshake and a sincere smile. "I've been thinking," he said as they walked together across the showroom. "You gave me a second chance. Most people wouldn't have." Karoline looked at him thoughtfully. "You took that chance and turned it into something real. That's what matters." Alex continued. "I used to think success was about numbers, hitting targets, making people laugh. But now I know it's also about how you treat people, even when you don't agree with them." Karoline nodded. "We all learn," she replied. "And what you've learned will help your team grow." Daniel joined them, holding a folder. "I've got news," he said, smiling. "The dealership's customer ratings are the highest they've been all year, and more than that, people are sending messages saying they trust this place again." Alex's eyes lit up with a mix of pride and humility. "That means more than any bonus," he said. As the small gathering continued, Daniel pulled Karoline aside. "I'm proud of how you handled everything," he said. "You didn't let one moment of mockery define your actions. You gave space for change to happen." She smiled. "And you led with kindness. We made a good team." Together, they watched the staff laugh and share stories. Karoline noticed how united the group seemed now, less focused on personal beliefs and more on shared goals. They were more than co-workers. They were part of something bigger. Just as the group began to clean up, a new customer walked in. A woman in her 30s, holding the hand of a young boy, approached the front desk. "Is this the place where the lady from the debate fund came from?" she asked shyly. The receptionist smiled. "Yes, it is. She's right over there." Karoline approached gently. The woman introduced herself as Maria and her son as Eli. "He has trouble speaking up," Maria said. "But he's smart. I saw your story online. It gave me hope. I thought maybe someone here could help him." Karoline knelt down and smiled at Eli. "Would you like to see how these cars work? Maybe even talk on the showroom mic?" The boy hesitated, then nodded. Alex, watching nearby, quickly grabbed the mic they'd used during the event. "Want to try it?" he asked Eli, offering the mic with a wink. The boy took it slowly. His voice was small at first, but clear. "My name is Eli. I like fast cars. The staff clapped gently, not too loud to scare him, but just enough to make him smile. Karoline's eyes glistened. It was a simple moment, but one that captured everything they'd been working toward. A child, once quiet, now finding the courage to speak. A family, feeling supported. A dealership, once divided, now united by empathy and purpose. As the day ended, Daniel, Karoline, and Alex stood outside the dealership, the sun setting behind them. The wind rustled the flags, and the fading light cast a golden hue across the windows. They said little, just stood quietly, taking it all in. Karoline finally spoke. This all started with something so small, a few words, a misunderstanding. But look where we are now. Alex smiled. You helped me understand that words can build or break. I used to use them carelessly. But now, I choose them better. Daniel added, it's not just about managing people or fixing numbers. It's about building trust one day at a time. Karoline looked up at the sky, the first stars beginning to appear. We didn't just buy a car. We helped shape a story of growth, grace, and understanding. That's something no price tag can match. They each went their separate ways that evening, but the bond they had formed remained strong. What had started as an uncomfortable moment of mockery had turned into a lesson for all. Respect could be restored. Trust could be earned. And with kindness and patience, even the most unlikely stories could have a beautiful ending. The next morning, a headline appeared in the local paper. From conflict to community, how one dealership changed its story. Underneath was a photo of Karoline, Daniel, and Alex standing together smiling, not as opponents but as partners in progress. And somewhere in the corner of the showroom, a little boy named Eli had found his voice.